Let's move on to our next segment to the NFC now, where the Detroit Lions won, I thought, the game of Week 7 by a final score 31-29 over the previously undefeated Minnesota Vikings in what was a clash of NFC North Titans. Detroit coming from behind really twice, down 10-0, then down 29-28, winning the game on a Bates field goal at the end. Detroit's 5-1. Jared Goff is playing some sick football right now. His passer rating is through the roof and gets in the 140s, which is 20 points higher, or at least prior to last night, than Lamar Jackson. So I'll start with you in this situation, Paris. Are the Lions the clear-cut favorite to win the NFC?
At the moment, they have to be. I mean, one, you got probably one of the best coaches in the NFL right now, Dan Campbell, coaching that team. Not only how well he plays, but the amount of trick plays they have just in general. You can't game plan against that because he can bring out anything to you. And then really in the NFC, other than the Lions division, nobody's that impressive in the NFC other than maybe the Commanders. The Commanders are a really good team, but with how young they are, I don't think they're ready to make that deep playoff push in their first year. I can see them getting there, but a team like the Lions are going to beat them first in the game in the playoffs. And then every other team in the NFC, it's just so unpredictable. Every team of them, like the whole West, the Seahawks, Geno Smith leads the league in passing yards, but I mean, against the Lions, he was shut down completely. The 49ers are struggling, not really their fault. They just can't stay healthy. Every single player on their team has to get injured. Cardinals, we talk about them every week. You just never know what you're going to get from that team. The Eagles, I still don't think Sirianni's the guy. They're looking better right now, but they did just beat the Giants, which, of course, the 1 week I vote for the Giants to win. They play like the regular Giants. So it's just the NFC in general. Other than the Lions are the dominant team just in general. But the NFC just in general right now is just every team's just so inconsistent. You can't put any faith in any team over there right now.
Yeah, no question. And I think too is, there, like you said, the consistency. You know what you're getting from the Lions every Sunday, win, lose, or draw. There's a style play. I'm not sure there's that many teams that come into every Sunday more confident in what they want to do than Detroit is. And again, they want to run the football. They want to hit you in the mouth. They want to be able to get to the quarterback. Now, the loss of Aiden Hutchinson is devastating, but that's the best O-line in football with Jared Goff. So to your point, Paris, there's a consistency factor there. There's a trust factor. I mean, it's been a few years now, and the Lions have been playing the way they've been playing. So good take on your part. To you, Eric, are the Detroit Lions the front runner to win the NFC right now?
They might be the front runner for now, but they're not like the clear-cut favorite, I believe. Minnesota, even though they took an L to them now, they should be so much different in the later on in the season with injuries and consistency and such. At Washington too, man, we got to give them their props because every couple years they do this. They draft a quarterback and they make a lot of noise. And the last time they went this far was Robert Griffin, and they went farther than the Cowboys. I'm sorry to say. BJ. But another thing too, as far as the Eagles go, I know it's a cool and popular thing to hate on this team, but you can't take away the fact that these guys have been in it for the past 3 to 4 years, whether it's been in the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship. And they're definitely on the right side of winning right now, 4-2. But a couple of them games they've given away too. So as far as like clear cut, not the Lions, but they're the front runner for now. But anything could change, and don't forget about the NFC South because whether it be New Orleans or Atlanta, always at the end of the season, one of these teams decides to be consistent and gain some momentum.
Yeah, and I think I personally think the NFC, I mean, the standings would show you that, but I think the NFC is deeper than the AFC, right? If you look at the division winners, it's teams, like Washington, like Detroit, like Atlanta, teams that may have flaws. The wild card pool, you've got Minnesota, you've got Green Bay. Chicago is young, but they've got a great defense. Obviously, Philadelphia, as you mentioned, like you've got some teams that could really make some noise without hosting a single home playoff game. So your point, Eric, you make a fair point in the sense that it may not be as clear cut as maybe a Lions believer like myself or others may feel. So a good take on your part. To you, Tyler, are the Lions the clear-cut frontrunner to win the NFC?
Absolutely. 2 words. Dan Campbell. Man, that man will make you want to run through a brick wall. Even watching the dude. Man, I love and you got to give it up to the GM too, putting a bunch of good pieces around them. But, man, they are clear-cut favorites without a doubt, mostly because of Dan Campbell. Jared Goff deserves some credit, and Jahmyr Gibbs. Man, I wouldn't want to play them right now, especially at home. They went to Minnesota and beat them at their own house. Now, Minnesota is not to be slept on either. Great team and very well coached. And Dan Campbell went in there and took it from them. Oh yeah, you got to be high on the Lions. You got to be high on the Lions.
Yeah, and to your point, you talk about the GM, Brad Holmes, who came from the Rams organization, has, I mean, we'll see how this draft class continues to progress and develop. It looks like he's hit on 4 consecutive NFL drafts. I mean, he aced 21. 22 is excellent as well. But you think about 23, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, like what he's done with this offensive line with, Penei Sewell and others. It has been, sure, they've added pieces in free agency. They've added guys like David Montgomery, but they have hit on almost all of their draft picks that have, that's culminated them being, I think, clearly the best offensive league and certainly a middling defense, but could be one that adds maybe a Max Crosby or another pass rusher down the road. So good take on your part, Tyler. Finally, to you, Arthur, are the Detroit Lions the clear-cut front runner to win the NFC?
Nah, man, I think that you need to put more respect on the Minnesota Vikings. I understand they took them down, but still, I think the Vikings still very, very well coached. They're really good offensively and defensively. Not a lot of teams can say that both sides of the ball are being able to produce and score at will against their opponents. But you also can't sleep on the Green Bay Packers. I feel like Jordan Love, when he came back from injury, those 2 games they had with Malik Willis, they went 1-1, but he came back. He's still been able to dominate. His situation with his wide receiver core has really been able to progress throughout the season. Defense is pretty solid. The Bears and the Commanders have rookies at the helm. So if this was the future, yes. But right now, I just think that they're too young to try to make that deep playoff run. Like Paris said, the Eagles, they have the Bengals, the Jaguars, and the Cowboys up next after winning the last 2 games. So they have a chance to be able to go on a streak, which is probably something that they really need just to be able to get this team going and flowing. Because they're way too talented on both sides of the ball to just be mediocre, right? And then you have Seattle, Atlanta, and Tampa Bay, who have had up and down seasons. Tampa Bay losing both of their wide receivers, one of them top 10, the other one top 15. Godwin is out for the season. Mike Evans, when he's able to come back, still going to be good, right? They're still going to be able to produce, but it won't be the same. And the Cowboys are the Cowboys, man. I mean, you know what you're going to get with them. So right now, I think that even though the Lions are playing well and they look like the favorites, they're not the clear cut to me. You still have other teams like the Vikings and the Packers who are still in that running.
And like you said, even in their division, which I think we can all agree on this point, that the NFC North is clearly the best division in all football. I mean, the worst team is the Bears. They're 4-2. So, like, it's matter of fact, I think today all 4 teams would be in the playoffs with Detroit's the division winner and then the 3 wildcard teams. Yeah, I mean, you talk about the depth with Green Bay. Like, that's the only question with them. And I think Green Bay, different game, obviously, but they and Houston, who just played over the weekend, very similar teams in terms of their youth, their depth at wide receiver, and the talent at quarterback and coach. Just might be too young to take that next step. But like you said, there's a depth to the NFC that we haven't seen in quite some time. And so I think that's a good point in your part. And it's why, frankly, I'm going to give Arthur the best take for the segment. Give him the 5 points, which gets him to 8 points total. It ties him with Paris, who gets 3. So we get a little tie right there. Eric, you get the 1 point for the third best take in this segment.